All right, Grasshoppers, it is Monday at 11, well, a little bit before 11:30. We just couldn't wait to get going on the show. I probably should be in the hospital with this cold I have, but because I knew I was going to be on with Mark Puttenvink, I sucked it up, took the intravenous, and, I'll probably sleep the rest of the day here now after going on. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. How did you get a cold? Were you working a kissing booth or?
I don't know what happened because I'm like, you and I are both so healthy and everything like that. It started coming on. Of course, I get a little cocky too, right? It started coming on yesterday and I should have shut it down. But of course, I have to go to the gym, and then I couldn't go to the. Actually, I skipped the gym yesterday, and then I even went to the beach. Or did I go to the beach? I didn't take it easy like I should have, but yeah.
So, zinc picolinate, quercetin, and vitamin D.
Oh,
to knock that, to keep your immune system up against colds and flus. And,
right.
Yeah, especially this time of the year.
And that's the stuff you take pretty much. You take every day, those supplements.
Yeah, so you do D3 once or twice a day. You do quercetin twice a day, and zinc picolinate one time a day. Of course, vitamin C as well. So those four there really gives you a good protection, keeps your immune system up.
And those are all separate supplements, so you get it all in one kind of thing, or
they are separate. I know some companies kind of package them together. The problem with in my mind, packaging together is, what are you getting? So. Yeah. I'd rather keep it separate and go with a real good source.
Good. Okay. You're going to have to text me those things because I'll forget probably. But.
Yeah, no, I'll send you a list.
But again, the great Mark Puttenvink, Patriot Training Systems. If you want to get a hold of him, he trains everybody on the planet. There's nobody he cannot train. And that's pretty much the truth, too. He can train everybody. He has had a little surgery on his, give us the terminology again.
It's an inguinal hernia, which is the most common hernia for men. Well, women don't get hernias but they don't have everything we have. It's the most common, and I had it done Thursday last week. Was 4 weeks post-op.
Yeah, that's right. Well.
And recovery has been a lot slower than I thought it would be. So I had my 4 week post-op Thursday with the doctor, and he said nothing, everything's cool. Pain is healing, and so. Here we are.
All right. So
I can't sit.
This is a miracle here. What's about to happen right now is pure miracle. This man has gone missing for months. The FBI was out searching for him. The Canadian Mounties were out looking for him. What would protect Thomas from that? Someone on that special day.
Yeah, well.
Oh, goodness.
I can't say it right here, Larry. But you and I both know what it is.
Hi, Barry. What's happening? Barry and Larry are on so far. Larry Melnick. Like, here's the thing with Larry. Like, he just kind of floats in, like he's gone for weeks. You don't hear from him, whatever. And then he'll just kind of float into the scene, like he's someone special.
He might be doing a lot behind the scenes he doesn't want you to know about.
That's true. He could be doing homework, although he used to do homework, and it just hasn't happened probably in the last year. So I doubt it very much. But on November 6th, I'm flying up to Marquette, Michigan, where I went to school, Northern Michigan University, where Walt Kyle is. Hopefully I'll see Walt Kyle up there. On the 7th, I'm making a presentation to a smaller school up there. And then at night, I'm speaking to, I think, roughly 500 student athletes up there. But I know this has been going on, the preparation for this for about a month now. But now that it's getting closer, I'm starting to think, oh, my God, I'm thinking of some of the things I did back there. Oh, that's going to be funny. So my old coach, Rick Comley, who was a fantastic part of my life, he'd left and gone to coached at Michigan State for a while. Then he retired. They brought him back as the athletic director. So it's going to be great to see him. It's one of those things, like, I'm 64 years old, but I still have to call him coach. I can't call him a ref.
But see, I thought Canadians don't call. I thought they called you like my junior A team. They called me my first name.
Yeah, and we did too. I didn't do that until I got to college, and then once I did it for 4 years, obviously with Coach Conley, and I just to call him Rick now just wouldn't seem to be right. But man, it's funny. I think back to some of the stories. Oh my God, just some of the idiotic things. So again, I know I've told you this, but first year I went up there was the first year they had a hockey team. So I was lucky to be 4-year captain, but we had no upperclassmen to teach us what to do or not to do. Probably more importantly, what not to do. So, oh God. Poor coach. I just can't imagine the stuff he went through. Like, he must have been in therapy with some of the stuff we did. Oh,
I can only imagine. Yeah, especially back then.
Yeah. Walt Kyle recently got inducted into the Hall of Fame up there, and yeah. And part of his speech, he's talking about. So Walt had gone to Boston College. His brother came in my sophomore year. So Walt wanted to come play with his brother. So he had to transfer. He had to miss a year. But during that year, he had hip surgery anyway. So it just all worked out. Mm-hmm. So that would be my so I guess he would have come in my junior year as a player. and a really good leader. And so he was named a captain even before the season started. So like he'd been around for the year, training off ice and everything. So we all knew what he was. So he got up his acceptance speech to the Hall of Fame. And he said that Coach Comrie called him in the office on a Wednesday and said, Walt, I really respect you, your work ethic and everything. You're going to name you as a tri-captain. But just to be clear, it's just this is Tom Laidlaw's team. And he's the leader of this team. He says, but he said, like, I think Walt toned it down a little bit. Like, Tom's a little wild. So I want you to follow him, and I want you to watch him. And so we went into this bar. There was a Air Force training base nearby. I think it was Air Force. So so one night, a Friday night in the bar, we got in a little ruckus with these Air Force guys. So the whole team gets involved. It's this big brouhaha. So Walt gets a call from Coach Comrie at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning, come into his office. He says, what happened? I told you how to handle Tom. And he says, well, listen, Coach, I watched him. I followed him. But as far as leading him, he's not going to follow anybody. So Walt told this story. Because I really, you know what it is when you look back at your life, you don't realize all the stuff that's going on, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Walt's a great guy. He's one of my favorite human beings. He, I was lucky enough to work with him in New York. And then just 2 or 3 years later, a kid that was on that junior team I spoke of earlier, Brian Stewart, real tremendous goaltender. He ended up going up and playing for Walt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, he went to Northern?
Yeah. And then he played 4 years here. He played really well.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
Northern Michigan University. Well, Kyle. So just so everybody knows, Walt, his backstory too, once he got done playing, so it would have been my first year pro, he was diagnosed with cancer. Yeah. Or first or second year pro. And he was an assistant coach at that time. And in college hockey, like a lot of sports, they do a lot of recruiting. So they're getting on the plane, flying. It's a really busy job. So during the week, they're recruiting and come back for the games. And that's pretty much the schedule. But he was going through the chemo treatments and everything. So, he's throwing up in the whole bit and getting on the planes. And I don't know if I say this the right way or not, but it kind of built the lore of Walt Kyle, because here's this guy, all the scouts see him all over the place and, throwing up and losing his hair and the whole bit, and just kept on plowing through it. And it really, and I know in a strange way, it really kind of built who he was, So.
Yeah. No, tremendous human being.
Yeah. It is funny. And I've said this to him before. I was bad because I was so wrapped up in my career. Walt and I were like brothers, like the three of us. And Junior, his brother, because I was so wrapped up in my career. I wasn't there for him when he was going through not that he needed me, but I wasn't there for him enough. And I really look back at that. That's kind of regret that I wasn't more. I just, it's just, I was not obviously, aware of things as I am now. You look back and realize, it's not much I could have done for him. I'm playing in the NHL. It's not like
I wouldn't beat yourself up over that too much, because it is what it is. You couldn't really do much. Yeah,
definitely. How was your weekend?
I didn't do too much.
Yeah,
and I feel I was talking to you earlier, I feel really guilty because today is the New Jersey Warrior golf outing at Stanton Ridge. And once again, Ted Curtin has done just an incredible amount of work, and I'm not there. But the problem is I can't sit. So it's an hour drive to get there, an hour back. And unfortunately, but
could you even swing a club?
Pardon? Could
you even swing a club right now the way you feel?
No, and even if I could, I wouldn't have been playing. I mean, this is a fundraiser for the program. Yeah, this is the golf outing put on by Hockey Players in Business, Tim Tedesco and Bill Kostic. So this is they did it last year and they did it this year, and this year is much larger than last year. Right. It's a really great event, and they put so much.
Didn't you give some plaque to Bill Brown, the retired Navy SEAL?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Next subject.
I haven't put my foot in my mouth in a long time. Just it tastes good. I missed the taste.
I'm not usually. I tag him if we speak his name, but I'm not going to today. I hope.
Oh God, that's terrible. I apologize. Oh, all right.
All right, we move on. Go ahead.
Yeah, we move on.
Yeah. What's going on with Hockey Canada, Tom? What is going on with all that?
They had some sexual scandal with kids. I think a few years ago, this all happened. So I know, and it's a big deal up there in Canada. These junior players are revered up there, and Hockey Canada program, that's, some people think that that's kind of inherent, and it's not right. There's no excuse for it, but they're lucky that more people don't get caught. Some of the stuff that guys do.
Now, did the Q pull out?
Pardon me?
The Q, did they pull out?
Well, I haven't seen that. Have you seen that?
That's pretty sure what I read. I hope I didn't understand or mistake that, but I thought I read that the Q pulled out of Hockey Canada.
So the Q is the Quebec Hockey League. So there's
Quebec Major. Yeah.
There's the 3 leagues up in Canada.
Big thing if they did. I mean, that would be a huge thing.
Yeah, 3 leagues up in Canada that make up the Canadian Junior Hockey League. There's the Western Hockey League, the Ontario League, and the Quebec League. So Quebec League pulls out of that. I mean, there's another. Yeah, there's another one. Have you seen the story about Ian Cole in Tampa?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that all played out.
Supposedly he started abusing a minor. They used the term grooming. I had to look up grooming. I didn't know what it was, but I guess it's that their coercion to make them do what they want them to do and everything. And she finally got strong enough to come forward. So he's been suspended by the Tampa Bay Lightning. The stories, I mean, it's a minor that, just ridiculous.
But was this something recent, Tom, or was this a while back?
It happened years ago. Yeah, it happened years ago. Now she's gotten old enough now to be strong enough to come forward. To do that with a minor is just, I mean, with anybody.
Yeah. So there's a gentleman by the name of Gavin DeBecker. He wrote a bestseller called Fear, and it's basically about dealing with fear and using it in a positive way. But he also wrote a book about protecting children, and it goes through the whole list of how they groom and how they set things up. So, like, if you had a coach, let's say a tennis coach, and he's got a minor that he's interested in, there's a pattern of grooming that they will do, and they can identify kids that are vulnerable. Yeah. Maybe they got a problem at home or something going on. Right. And I suggest every parent read that book because it really keeps you aware. It's
right. Because it goes on all the time. And we've had this discussion many times. My involvement with Sheldon Kennedy when he came forward with Graham James and his coach really opened my eyes up a lot to how often this happens, the damage it does to anybody, boys, girls, adults. I've met many people now since then that have gone for decades without saying anything and finally come out. So sometimes there's that doubt that creeps in because everybody says, well, why did they wait for 20 years?
Gap in time. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know. But again, we don't know their, like you said, their support system. And then once time goes by, they think, well, it's gone so long now, I'm not going to say anything. Finally, they get to the point where.
And what's unfortunate, well, everything about it's unfortunate. It's horrible. But I would venture to say that more people get away with it than get caught.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Like you said, it's sad to say it this way. Nike pulled out the sponsorship. Huh? Interesting.
Yes, I did read that, Barry. Yeah. Barry, do you know if the Q pulled out? Can you? Because I know Barry's got his finger on the pulse. Yeah.
Go find out. Yeah, it's just sick stuff, And again, like you raise up a good point that all parents should not just take the stance that it won't happen to my son or daughter, right? Because I'm there for them. You can't do that. You should be.
Part of the problem, I think, with this in general is that we live in such a litigious society that people are afraid to speak up because if it's not true, then they expose themselves to some, civil lawsuits. And it's unfortunate because it hamstrings people from really saying what they should say, especially if you suspect something. But one of the good things, Tom, in USA Hockey and also USA Boxing, I would hope in Canada Hockey too, is that every year when you renew your coaching membership, you have to retake a safe sport course, which deals specifically with sexual.
That was when I first did that recently. That was really an eye opener for me. It was a great program, not just to protect kids, but protect the coaches too, of not putting themselves in situations where they can be accused of something. Because again, you're right. Maybe it's a coach is a big heart. He wants to give a kid a ride because kid's sitting outside in the rain or something. So you really have to be careful of that stuff about.
And also identifying and then what to do with it when you do identify when someone comes to you.
Yes.
You go directly to the thing. You don't hesitate.
Like the thing in Chicago, we would go back to Chicago. The fact that they didn't go directly to the police is just you'll never understand that. It was just,
and there's a story going on. It's not dealing with a minor, but there's another story going on in Pittsburgh with the Wilkes-Barre team from a while back with a coach and a player's wife or something.
Oh, I know.
That's a totally different animal, but it's still got swept under the rug. I mean, it's not right.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Guerin, who's now the general manager in Minnesota, was dragged into that as well. That they went to him supposedly, and he said he wouldn't do anything about it. So
I know Billy. I'm sorry.
Saw a special on Saturday about the Women's Soccer League scandals, sexual harassment, terrible stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty much across the board. It's not specific to any sport. And I know Billy really well. Billy and I, he used to train with me a lot, and great guy. And, sometimes you don't think it through.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing you've ever dealt with before. And
Well,
this was, and in Billy, I'm not going to defend Billy because I don't know the whole story, but this was adults, so.
Yeah. But and it was a weird story too. And again, we need to be careful because we weren't there or whatever.
Yeah, we weren't there. And so, but that aside, in general, to Brendan's point, it unfortunately, goes across the board. And I have a personal story I could tell that many years ago, an athletic director called me and said, "Hey, I'm not a hockey guy. We're starting a hockey program at the high school here. Would you be kind enough to come in and interview help me interview?" I said, "Sure." Interviewed a bunch of guys, and we decided on this one guy. He had a resume. He was the only one that really had a resume. He had been an assistant female coach at Ohio State and Brown. So I said, all right, well, he's at that level. And he's the only guy that came in our mind prepared with a suit and a resume and everything. So we hired this guy. And about halfway through the season, I get a call from some parents, and there was some stuff going on. I don't want to get into the details of it. And so I took it upon myself. I had a friend, Casey Jones, who was coaching at Ohio State. He put me in contact with the women's coach at Ohio State. And she didn't really want to get into details. All she said, "Listen, our program is all about honesty and integrity." I said, "Okay, that's enough." Then I called Brown, and that coach was more than willing to tell me what was going on. So this guy was, with the girls, just doing some stuff he shouldn't do. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. I went to the AD, and he did nothing with it.
Oh, the guy you worked with to hire him?
Did nothing.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he sat on it. And again, I don't know what his rationale was, but he did nothing. Right. They didn't rehire him, and then he ended up working with a youth program here in New Jersey. I don't want to mention it because people figure. And the same thing happened. And then USA Hockey finally banned him for life.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, God, you just have to be. We discussed this too, where something like this Chicago story comes out. Now it hits the headlines. It's a big story, and everybody's aware of it. And then it dies down, and everybody thinks, but it's still going on. The abuse is still happening out there all the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, and again, like even this particular coach I'm speaking of, how many young women did he violate, or whatever term you want to use, along the way before USA Hockey finally shut him down?
Yeah, totally. Wow. I was not aware of this. Scotiabank, Tim Hortons, and Canadian Tire. Well, these big companies.
Wow.
I have all post sponsorships from. Oof. Wow.
For all my American friends, Canadian Tire is like you go there for anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
With Home Depot with hockey equipment.
Yeah. Wow. That's I didn't I just have been unaware of that. I saw the story about the abuse, the alleged abuse, and I didn't
realize it's pretty bad. And if they're yanking all that money out of the program, it's not good.
Yeah, that's definitely that. Well, I'll tell you, I hope that again, you hope that Hockey Canada is an organization that now says, okay, we now have the ability to do something about this to help stop this stuff. Again, I'm big time on the NHL. I think they've done some fantastic things, but that's the one thing I thought they missed. Although I have heard that they're working with Sheldon Kennedy on the abuse issue. Again, maybe it's just not as public as I would expect.
Probably not.
Yeah. So maybe if they're doing stuff behind the scene, I just think it's an opportunity to really try to stop this as much as possible. Again, do you ever stop it fully? I guess not, but just make people more aware, right? That there's just don't assume that this coach is a good coach. Again, it doesn't mean he's a bad guy either. There's fantastic coaches out there, but be aware.
Well, one of the great things about Gavin DeBecker's book is he also goes through how to identify if your child or a child you work with or coach is being abused by another coach or even at home. Because I did read the book, I think the stat was like pretty much predominantly this type of sexual assault and stuff like that with kids is a friend or a family member.
Right.
Yeah.
And doesn't it very often lead to some kind of addiction, drugs, alcohol? The person
it can, absolutely. Yeah, because it's trauma. It's trauma to the child. And
I know like this Craig Carton that's got the radio show, who used to be with Boomer Esiason, has been very open. He spent 3 years in jail for gambling while connected. Yeah. Excuse me. And he went and got therapy. And apparently he had been abused at a Boy Scout camp. Excuse me.
There's some famous, I don't want to use the word famous, but there's some very significant stories of abuse at Boy Scout camps here where I live in Bergen County, New Jersey, that date back to the 70s, where there were, I think, brothers, and one of the brothers committed suicide because he couldn't deal with this whole, yeah.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, I learned about the suicide with kids that are abused. Oh, man. Yeah.
Anyway, so changing subjects because this is kind of my Jets.
Oh, I know. And
I don't think
not just win, but played well too. Like, I like the way they played. Zach Wilson was unbelievable. I thought really good. Yeah.
And against the Dolphins, and they beat Pitt, and Pitt was the first time in a long time. I think out of 10 games they won there once in Pittsburgh, and now Dolphins usually spank the Jets. But it was huge.
And even though they had to go with their third straight quarterback, they still wasn't the quarterback wasn't the issue though. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And the Giants, I'm not a Giant fan, but it's good to see them win.
Oh, yeah. I'm a Daniel. I'll go right out in the open and say it. I'm a Daniel Jones fan. I think they give him a chance. Let him build himself up. He's another Eli Manning. He's a quiet guy, but he's a competitor out there. I like him. Like him up. Saquon Barkley, man, he's back to being what they thought he was going to be too. Yeah.
It's great stuff. Good weekend.
Yeah, it was good. So how about the Mets? So I'm not much of a baseball guy, but the Mets, so they have 101 wins during the regular season. They lose in 2 games. So.
Well, I think the wild card's 3 games?
Best of 3, yes. Yeah.
So doesn't give you much room for error. You lose one, you're pretty much done.
Yeah. And the Yankees start tonight. This Contradidiac guy. Thank God for Putz carrying the show. I got a little cough. Like, how about
he's playing hurt?
Yeah, exactly. Contradidiac. You know what? What's his name? Was right. You should get too many vowels in your name. Vowel. I don't think that. Maybe that's not even really a name. Maybe he was just drunk one night. He started typing a bunch of stuff. He said, "Okay, that looks good." Right?
Yeah. Sounds like a good name. Yeah.
Definitely. No, you're right though. That was good football. Because around the last few years around here, both teams have just been like, at least give an effort. If you lose, giving an effort, I'll take it. But
on Facebook they have the memories where each day it's like what you've said or posted over the past history of that particular date. And every year, when we get to this time of the year, I see all from 2 years ago, oh, my Jets are awful already. Oh, this sucks. Yeah.
I just love the attitude. Like Zach Wilson scored that one touchdown where he dove head first to the goal line. Took a hard hit too. But just the attitude, like you could tell they were asking him if he was okay. He's all right. Yeah, I like that kid. He's good.
He's a competitor for sure.
Yeah. And both coaches. So what's the Jets coach? What's his first? Sabo?
Saleh.
Yeah. Northern Michigan guy. Went to Northern Michigan.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Love the Giants coach too, man. He's got that fire. Like he doesn't pull any punches. If it's Daniel Jones or whoever, if they're not playing well, he's going to jump on them. Yeah. But you can tell at the same time that the players love him. That, okay, he's going to be hard on you, but no, I like that. Oh. Yeah. Let me see here. Anthony's got a little statement here about it. Not all love for Aaron Judge. Bonds, McGuire, Sosa have an asterisk, and Homer must be all. Not all love. Oh, I see. Other people don't all love Aaron Judge. I don't know how you can't admire Aaron Judge. I mean, he's another Derek Jeter, breaks the record. He's the Yankees.
The whole Sosa, McGuire, Barry Bonds. I mean, we all know what it was. But again, at that particular point in time, they were all doing it, so it was kind of a level playing field. I mean, you and I could do jiu-jitsu. We can't hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Well, I'm just going to say that, right? You still have to hit the ball. It doesn't matter how strong you are. You still got to hit it.
But I do think that for all appearances, it looks like Aaron Judge is completely natural.
Yeah.
So I kind of, in my mind, say, okay, he's certainly at their level, if not better.
Right. So you look at football players, particularly offensive linemen and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They've got to be doing. They're on stuff. They're on stuff.
Well, if they're, I'll leave it at that. But if there was comprehensive testing, there'd be no league. Trust me.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people, and this is purely speculation. I don't know this for a fact, but people speculate with Ovechkin, that he was juicing there as it continues to. He's just gone through periods.
Wouldn't be unusual for a Russian player.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
His mother was an Olympian. She was
that's right. Yeah.
And if you ever seen photos of her, because they did, all the women they were doing male hormones and they were doing HGH, which gives you that Cro-Magnon look.
Yeah.
And she kind of has that.
She has that. I haven't seen her.
A little bit. And I don't want them coming after me now, but I'm not disrespecting her over. I'm just saying.
Your mother was juicing.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
you can tell who's not juicing though. Here, I'll take my shirt.
But look at Lance Armstrong. Would you, if you didn't know he was juicing, do you think anybody?
Well, he wasn't juicing. He was using all those blood drugs and stuff that puts more oxygen. He may have been doing some testosterone, but it's crazy with those dudes. They take blood out, they train down a court, they put it back in right before they race. It's crazy some of the stuff they do.
Okay, so I'm throwing this out there. I'm not saying this I believe or don't believe. I just think is the juicing, if an athlete wants to juice to try to be better, is that a bad thing? I guess because it's against the rules.
Look, I would never say if somebody's looking at a $30 million contract or something that if they take care of the money, they're good, their kids are good, their grandchildren are good, and it's going to take years off your life. That's a decision you have to make. Is it cheating? Yeah.
Yeah. Because against the rules.
But at some point, I think, you have to step back and go, well, if everybody in professional, whatever sport it is cheating, then it's not cheating.
Right. Yeah. So I've told you a story off, and I got to be very careful as far as saying who this is, but a high-placed official in sports, let's say that pro sports. We were sitting around talking one time, and he was involved in all like the drug era and those guys. And his statement was, I can never say this publicly, but testosterone, if it's done properly, is something that all people as they get older should be using. It's almost a shame that they're not using it.
Well, it's a true statement if your testosterone levels are low.
Yes.
So, but if they're within the normal range, there's no need to. But, we do know that testosterone levels in men in general have been dropping for the past 4 decades.
I rocked the board. But you naturally, as you get older, you naturally drop.
You naturally do, but also just in general, Tom, the test levels are going down because the exposure to processed foods, toxins. I mean, even our soaps. If you take any commercial hair shampoo, look at the ingredients, and you go, I have no idea what this stuff is. It's all chemicals. It gets in your system, so they think that's part of it. And then it is. So I think when you turn 25, your HGH and test levels begin to drop, but they drop so insignificantly that, in your 30s and 40s, you don't notice it. Right. And if you do notice it, and maybe some of those other things that I'm saying contribute to it. The problem, like everything else, is I could call a place in Florida, just go online and go TRT. They'll tell you to do a blood work. They don't really care what your blood work is. They're going to juice you.
Yeah, they want to sell you stuff. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and I would be very careful. I'm not trying to promote testosterone. If you ever contemplated doing it as you get older, or if you have some health issue, you go to a legitimate doctor. They test your blood levels all the time if you want to do it. But
so again, if you're low, Tom, they bring them back to a normal range. So they'll bring them in that 600 to 700 range, not 1200.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So our sleep expert, Brendan Duffy, has decreased testosterone. Sleep deprivation causes 10% drop. Well,
100%.
Very interesting. I saw an interview the other day. This woman was speaking. She seemed very knowledgeable, saying that how'd she put it? 80% of gray brain matter can be adjusted through exercise. Do you?
I'd be interested to find out what she's saying. We do know that exercise, just for depression and just for general mental acuity, it's tremendous because for one thing, you're keeping your blood flow.
Right.
Your brain needs blood to operate. But for sure, like when you're Kenny Bigby put up a post a while back, when you're running and you're training, what gets you to that finish line when your body's giving up is dopamine.
Right. Which is I saw that.
Yeah.
Explain that to me. So dopamine, what is that?
Well, dopamine's the feel-good molecule, hormone. You hear people who do distance running, they call it the runner's high. That's the dopamine, And also you score a goal. How great do you feel? That's a dopamine.
Yeah. We did talk about this. That's right.
Yeah. And just like when you're in a gym, those days everything you're doing is on point and you're just jacked up and you're feeling great. You're bulletproof. Yeah. You've been releasing a lot of dopamine. Right. And therefore, that's why it never hurt. If you're having a bad day, if you're just kind of feeling kind of gloomy, Get to the gym, get a workout. You're going to release a lot. Trust
Totally.
me, you're going to feel better, even if it's
Totally.
just something short and brief.
Isn't that true? When I'm not feeling well, so I haven't gone to the gym for a couple of days now, and you just get that you're dragging a little bit, right? You're missing that.
Yeah. Listen, I've been laying on my back since August 7th. The day after the swim, I lay down. I haven't been up, and yeah, it gets depressing, man.
So the dopamine comes. So your body produces the dopamine.
Correct.
When you're exercising yourself, and then that dopamine makes you feel good about the exercise.
Yes. So, from my understanding, and maybe Mr. Duffy can, we have an unlimited source of dopamine, but we do deplenish the amount. It needs to come back. So this is what we were talking a few weeks ago about. Like, if you have that great workout in the morning, don't go immediately for a run. Give it some time so you can re-energize both, your energy, but also the dopamine levels. Bring them back up.
That's interesting because when I have a good workout in the gym, then I go right to the beach for the march. When I've had a good workout and I'm feeling good, man, my stride, I'm flying across there. Yeah.
And one of the telltale signs of overtraining, which is a great concern to people like me that are strength coaches. If you have an athlete or a team, you want to make sure they don't overtrain. And there's three basic symptoms of being an overtrained athlete. One is an elevated heart rate when you wake up in the morning. Oh. So you have an elevated heart rate in the morning. Second one is you really don't want to go to the gym. You know why? Because you don't have any dopamine. You haven't let it replenish. And the third one is constant muscle soreness because you're just not letting yourself recover. So those three things will tell you that you're an overtrained athlete.
Well, that's pretty interesting. So I've gotten to the point now where I'm up at 3:30. I go do the video at 3:53. And I had been sitting on the couch reading online, see what's going on in the world. I've stopped doing that now. I stand up and I go to the reels or whatever, and I see all these motivational videos. Yeah. And by the time, and I don't turn on, I love country music, but I don't turn on the country music because sometimes it's like, I shot my dog and all this kind of stuff. And so it's all the things that I'm putting into my brain now are all these positive videos and everything. So by the time I get to the,
yeah. Well, I mean, think about this, Tom. Why do coaches, before you hit the ice or you hit the field or you go into boxing or whatever, they want to motivate you because they want to get you energized. They want you getting some dopamine going and being, and there's other factors to increase your athleticism and mental acuity. But yeah.
See, that's another one of those cases where because I've learned more from guys like yourself, I'm now increasing my ability to have a better workout. Right, like I've learned more things about how to just don't go do the same thing.
You're controlling the workout. The workout's not controlling you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Well put. HRV, heart rate variability.
Yeah, that's something I've just learned about a little while ago. That's very, very, very important.
Oh, in what terms? In what terms of?
Well, cardiac health and conditioning.
Right. So, like doing the HIIT programs, the high intensity interval training, that controls our heart rate's going up and down, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, so again, Mr. Duffy would know more than I do, but if you think of it this way, Tom, you take a shift on the ice, you come back to the bench, your heart rate's up.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how fast we'll come back down before you can hit the ice. Because as your heart rate increases, your skill sets diminish. And that's why guys that are, either shoot archery or sharpshooting, targets, they learn breathing exercises, combat breathing, which they use in the military, but to bring that heart rate down so they can squeeze off the trigger.
That's right too. Yeah, because remember I told you training before I met you, training for Survivor. A buddy of mine, Robbie Sherwood, he had me doing. I would memorize a poem and I could say it verbatim, every word. And then as soon as my heart rate got going, for whatever reason, I couldn't say it. And it really was interesting to notice that. I really never noticed that before, how my heart rate affected my brain.
Your body always has a hierarchy of what chemicals it's going to release and what hormones it's going to release based upon whatever stress you're giving it. So I do know we do some things called stress inoculation therapy, SIT training, which is basically attacking people, right? And so that they're really stressed. You do 4 or 5 scenarios in a row, and then you say, Tom, what's your mother's maiden name? Spell it backwards. You can't do it. Because you're wired into the middle part, survival part of your brain for those reps, because you're defending, you're doing all this stuff. You shut down the cognitive thinking of your brain.
Right.
So when I ask you, what's your mother's maiden name? Spell it backwards. You can't do it.
See, I just did it now, so I'm just to think I can do it. It'd be interesting when I get. Yeah, that's cool. All right, Brendan's informative here. deal with the stress, etc. Can it
Yeah.
relax?
Exactly. And that's why the combat breathing is so important, whether it's in sport or in combat or in self-defense, because if you can control your breathing, you're controlling your heart rate.
Right.
And when you control your heart rate, we know that when the heart rate goes up, you lose certain skills. So I think up to 125 beats, 115 beats per minute, you can do fine motor skills, putting the needle through the thread through the needle, right? Once it gets north of 115 to 145, you can still do complex skills. So I could be a quarterback, I could read off, I can perform. Anything between 145 and 175, you've lost both those skill sets, and it's gross motor skills. So whatever you're doing are pre-learned, very simple, basic movements.
And can't you improve on that by training?
Yeah, by doing this stress inoculation training,
Gotcha.
which keeps your heart rate lower, combat breathing, and all those things. And that's why I would suggest anybody who's a hockey player learn how to perform combat breathing. So when you come back to the bench, you're not just breathing; you're doing it with a purpose. And you'll bring your, especially all of a sudden, you got to go kill a penalty. You've been sitting on a bench for 15 seconds. You got to get back out.
Yeah. See, that's interesting because what I learned in my career was that I had to calm myself down, which is basically what you're saying, because I had to read and react. Like another player, like a John Tonelli, that was just all go, go, go. He was 100 miles. His heart rate was just off the charts. I had to settle myself down, even before the game in the locker room and in between periods in the locker room. Like if I was just like all wired, and I go, we got to get him, guys, we got to get him. It's more like, okay, everybody calm down here a little bit. It's funny, even on Survivor. So at the start of the challenges, you give it a minute to plan and strategize. So because I was the older captain in the NHL, the guys on my team said, okay, Tom, you lead the way here. So, and they are fantastic people. So I'm not criticizing, but they're so wired up to get going on the game. As soon as the bell went for that 1 minute where we could strategize, they all started talking.
Yeah.
Like they're just wired. And when it first happened, it's like, okay, guys, you got to settle down. After a while, I realized it's just not going to change. They're just too fired up. So Brendan throws another one at us here too. I like this sympathetic nervous system.
Yes. So again, your body's going to work in a hierarchy of what's important at that particular time. So when you're stressed out, your body's going to. So here's a perfect example: the term yellow. Somebody's yellow. Where do we get that from? Because they pee themselves.
Oh, okay.
But what happens is they're not yellow. Their heart rate is so high that the parasympathetic system shuts down. So the sympathetic system can take over because there's a hierarchy at that particular moment in time that's more important. So you let loose, but it's not because you're afraid.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, I've never said that before. Yeah.
It's not because you're afraid. Yeah.
Yeah. This is cool. I know we're going a little longer than we normally go, but I like this subject here. So, same breathing to relax for insomnia when you wake in the middle of the night before 7 breathe. Yeah, that's true. I like that, Brendan. That's true. And I've learned to do that now where if I'm stressed out or something, I get all these songs in my mind, just concentrate on your breathing. Yeah. All right. So Anthony, this is good question. So when you're stressed, you don't think the same or act the same?
No, absolutely not. So what happens again, Anthony, you get a bath of neurochemicals and hormones that it's all again about hierarchy. What is most important to you at that particular time? Because our brains and the way we react have not changed since 10,000 years. So we have the frontal cortex, which is the executive thinking, the cognitive thinking, and the middle part of the brain, which is the wild brain, which is what keeps us alive. The wild brain, however, is where we store all those gross motor skills that are learned. So if I'm teaching Tom how to deflect the right hand coming and come back in with an elbow, it's a very gross motor skill. And he has to perform that skill under stress numerous times. And then gets into a situation, his heart rate's not going to go up. It's going to bypass he recognizes the threat. He has an immediate response to it because it bypasses the cognitive thinking, goes right to the wild part of the brain and gross motor skill, and he's protected himself.
That's
so
cool.
If you think about hockey, Tom, when you receive a puck on your stick and you have to say a one touch pass, your brain doesn't slow. You don't executive think. You don't cognitively think, okay, it's going to hit my stick. As it hits my stick, I'm going to just tap it forward. You've done it so many times. It passes. right to the wild brain. You don't even look, you do it.
Right.
You know, maybe that's not the best example, but that's kind of where.
Well, here's an example that I know, and I've told the story before. So going back, like breakout passes for me. I bet you I've done it even before getting the NHL, probably did it 100,000 times. I had that coach in junior, Rick Conley at Northern Michigan, same thing. Well, that they recognized that if I was going to have to play, that was going to have to be one of the things that I was good at was getting the puck out of our own end. Get the puck out of our own end, you don't have to play defense all the time. Right. So over and over, I would skate hard back to get the puck, head on a swivel, looking to see where the danger is coming from, and looking to see where my outlet pass is, usually on the hash mark. So over and over. So when I did a breakup, it didn't matter at that point how high my heart rate was, because I trained myself so much to do that. I could do that automatically, right?
So there's famous story of a law enforcement agent, and something popped off. He couldn't dial 911 because his heart rate, he wasn't used to a new phone. His heart rate was so high, he had lost all his fine motor skill and complex skill. Now it's a gross motor movement, and he kept hitting 6, 2, 3, and yeah. Wow. So that's how significant. If your heart rate, especially when it hits 175, that's when you get the freeze, where guys will freeze, absolutely just stop in their tracks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. But even if you're used to being that high, even if you've trained yourself, I guess that's
well, 175 is pretty high. It was very high. And 175, you really don't have any control over. So the key to it is, Tom, when you get in that stressful situation, right, to begin your breathing right away, to keep it, somewhere around below 145, the highest.
Right. That's cool. See, that's all interesting stuff. I'm thinking about if I'd known that, this would have made myself a better player, more under control, better make better decisions, right? Back when I was playing some.
Yeah, well, again, I would encourage anybody that plays a sport that's nonlinear. So hockey's nonlinear. You're on for a period of time, you have recovery time. Boxing's nonlinear. Boxing, you're boxing 3 minutes, you get a minute in between. Learn the combat breathing. So it brings your heart rate back down. You're also going to recover, and in terms of your energy supplies and stuff, and you're ready to go again.
Right. That's pretty cool. I like that stuff. I like learning that stuff. How to perform better. And I guess it goes for your regular life too, right? If you're stressed in a situation, you're at work as a parent, right? You're stressed out. Your kids are
walk away, do some combat breathing, and then re-engage.
Yeah, very true. I'm gonna have to tell my son that he and his wife went ahead and got their golden retriever, cute dog too. They call him Maverick, but he's controlling their life right now. He's just
they do. Yeah, they will. They will.
Good job. Hey, I love this conversation today. That was very informative. Thank you.
I'll do a little bit more research and be more definitive next time.
Yeah, Brendan. Brendan Duffy. We may want to have him on the show with us someday.
He's a wealth of knowledge.
Yes, definitely. All right, everybody. Good to see you again. I should be back tomorrow. Where Jackie will be back with me doing our hypnotism. So she should be back. Yeah, I should get hypnotized too. I keep talking about it. I really believe in it, and I just should do it. Yeah. All right. Hope you're feeling better, brother.
Thanks. You too, Tom.
Yeah, I'll probably die right after the show, but that's fine. See you later.